The Loud Thumbs podcast is a weekly gaming and movie-related podcast. Every Monday you can start your week off with gaming news, reviews, and topic discussions, along with a bi-weekly visit to the Power-Up Bar, or the pub as we call it, which is a fun segment where we'll make a video game-themed drink, and then we'll play a game of 20 questions to guess the game that matches the drink. We also bring you the games we've been playing, and recommended games to watch for. Then join us on Wednesday for our weekly Rotating Chair movie podcast, where we invite a new guest on the show to bring you recommended movies and television. We devote a section of the show to review a specific movie for that episode, spoiler-free of course, then we'll have spoilers toward the end. Loud Thumbs Podcast is a fun, uplifting podcast that prides itself on spreading the love of video games and movies. No matter what kind of fan you are, there's always something to enjoy with the Loud Thumbs Podcast. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or watch us on YouTube just by searching Loud Thumbs Podcast. And like we always say, stay loud.
All right. Hello again, world. It is me, sir. Welcome to another episode of the My Movie Fix podcast. Again, I'm your host, sir, and this is my safe place. I love talking about movies, and this is the place where I come to get my fix. Today, my guest to help me do so is Nick from the Loud Thumbs podcast. Nick, why don't you introduce yourself and say hello to the folks?
Hey, sir, and everybody out there listening. I really appreciate you having me on the show this week. This is another one of them bucket list things for me here, so I really appreciate it. I am Nick from Loud Thumbs Podcast, as sir said. We are a gaming and entertainment podcast. We are focused mainly on what we've been playing for the weeks. We do a Monday episode every Monday, and we just kind of talk about what we've been playing in the world, go over some news, and just make it a fun environment for everybody out there. So it's just a good time to be on this here and talk some movies and a little change of pace for us. Yeah, this would be great. I'm appreciating it.
Indeed, I respect that. I'm a lazy man. I drop my episodes every other Monday because I don't have the dedication to do it every week and the time commitment. So I respect that. I really do. Hey, all right. Tonight on the podcast, we are going to obviously start with our movie fixes in our How You Like Them Apples segment, the section of the pod where we let out some movie takes we've been holding on to. Then we are moving to our recommendations, followed by a full review and, of course, our weekly send-off. Today's episode is none other than the new Disney release, Jungle Cruise, as you can see from the title of the episode you just clicked on. All right. So you are our guest, Nick. So without further ado, let's drop the bumper.
Do you like apples?
Yeah.
Well, I got a number. How do you like them apples?
All right. What is your hot take this week?
The hot take I'm going to bring in is that Man of Steel is the best Superman movie. That's where I'm going.
Okay. You know what? I expected a hot take. I call it a cold take because that's what
you think. That's cold?
You
agree with me then, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, for me personally, a lot of people hate on that movie and they say, "Oh, it's not the right Superman." Blah 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 blah. But I never understood. I loved it when it came out, and I rewatched it probably a month ago, and I'm like, how do people not like? This is the epitome of what Superman, kind of should be, and like Henry Cavill is just yoked to the max. Like when I saw him with no shirt on, I was like, "Oh, that's got to be like some super CGI." It's like, no, he's just huge, and seeing him save people, I was like, I don't know, that really works for me. That's probably my favorite Superman movie all time. So I 100% agree with this take.
Yeah. This is definitely a hot take for people. I'm glad you agree with me. I have a good circle that does agree with me, which is great. But man, I'll tell you, like this movie, I had the pleasure of seeing it before it was released, where I was actually working at the time. They gave us tickets to go see it at a week early, which was pretty dope.
Nice.
And I actually took my son to it, who was about 5 years old at the time, and left. And I was like, you know what? that was amazing. And then it just seemed like the hate started happening after that, just comparing it to everything they possibly could to destroy it. And this movie stood on its own 2 feet real good. And the story itself was what really drew me in. I mean, as you said, Henry Cavill's probably the best Superman, honestly. Like, he is. I agree with that statement 1,000,000%.
Indeed.
But the story for this, man, the story killed it. Like, it all made sense. It had everything you wanted. It even brought in Marlon Brando, from the original movies to kind of give that little touch of classic to it. And they did it justice. They did it right. And it came out with some sequels that are probably other hot takes, is the Batman versus Superman and stuff as well. But I'll tell you, the overall just feel of this movie was great. Like, amazing. Like, I can't say anything better about it. It was just such a good movie. With action scenes were amazing, storyline was great, love story was good. Like, it had it all. So
It,
yeah, you can't go
this
dogging
gonna
on
be
this movie.
this gonna be a Gus session. I can't, yeah, I'm 100% agreeing with you, man. Like the spaceship, like in every other Superman movie or just comic book movies in general, it tends to be a little over the top, a little hokey, little silly. But that spaceship seemed, for lack of a better word, realistic. I just, it seemed
Mhm.
grounded. And like the story of him, like I don't think I've been more invested in any superhero movie than the storyline of him up until he was like 20 something or whatever, when he was just trying to be a guy, and he was finding himself. And he didn't take his powers for granted. He was basically being a low key, not low key, but low key superhero,
Right.
just saving somebody when they needed saving. And he was trying to be a fisherman out in the middle of nowhere, and the oil rig started collapsing. He was like, you know what? I can't let this happen. I don't want to be a hero. I don't want to be famous, but I'm going out there to save these people, and I'm disappearing. That's, I don't know. That's my idea of what Superman should be. And I don't know this. I don't know. I just don't understand the take of this being bad. I do not
Mhm.
agree that the Batman Supermans. I don't know how much I like them, and the Justice League's film. I feel like the the second one was better, but it was also 4 hours long. So I mean, you can
Right. I'll agree with
there's a
that.
whole, yeah, there's a whole lot of time to add backstory and depth, character depth in 4 hours. So obviously, if you're squeezing all that in 2 hours, it's not as good. But I don't know. At the end of the day, that Superman movie is probably the best movie DC has made to date, in my opinion. So indeed.
Fully agree on that opinion. That's exactly right. Like, that is the DC movie. And I know a lot of people just don't like Superman, which that's fine, have your opinion about that. But, look at this as a movie, even if it's a character
Yeah.
that you don't care for. This is a fantastic movie. And I just feel like more people should just praise it and be like us and, be on that right road.
Indeed.
So it's a good movie. Real good.
I appreciate it. That's your take. And on that same thread, I think, the Gus session we just had, I really appreciate that, but I think it's about to fall apart a little because I have a very similar take that I don't think many people are going to agree with,
Oh
because
boy.
I was listening to a podcast earlier, and they were talking about Coen Brothers films, and they were kind of ranking them. And the one they didn't rank is my favorite, in my opinion, the best Coen Brothers film, which is Intolerable Cruelty, which nobody talks about, nobody cares about, and gets dismissed as, oh yeah, and they also made this little silly movie or whatever. But Intolerable Cruelty is my jam. I love good writing. I love witty, funny writing. The story just absolutely works for me. George Clooney and Catherine Zeta-Jones, I've been in love with her since Zorro. Like, that's, the movie just works for me.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's kind of a mix between the 30 Rocks and the Offices, not
Okay.
the Office. The What's the other show that 30 Rock gets wrapped up again?
Like Parks and
Amy
Rec, or
Parks and Rec. Yeah, Parks and Rec.
there we
So
go.
it's just
There we
kind of
go.
that quick writing that you actually kind of and just the movie just makes you laugh out loud. It's got Billy Bob Thornton in there. I don't know. It just, that movie works for me. I know Coen Brothers have made some awesome movies. Big Lebowski is, they're,
Mhm.
it's the cult classic that everybody loves. People love Simple for some reason. Raising Arizona. I mean, I thought it was, funny, but it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Intolerable Cruelty is the one that I will go back to and rewatch, and just, I'll give a number two to Oh Brother Where Art Thou, because I absolutely love that one as well. But I don't know.
Oh,
I
yes.
think I love funny Coen Brothers better than artsy Coen Brothers, if that makes sense. Because
I gotcha.
True Grit, Inside Llewyn Davis, I get maybe even Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Some those are quasi serious. Well, not quasi, but serious. No
Well,
Country for Old
yeah.
Men, very very
No
serious.
Country for Old Men.
That they have their humorous elements, but I like the quirky, funny Coen Brothers, and it doesn't get any more quirky, funny than Intolerable Cruelty. That is my favorite Coen Brothers movie. Hard stop, and I'm ready and willing for you to tell me that I'm incorrect.
Man, I have not seen this movie, but
Ah,
I will tell you this much: like Catherine Zeta-Jones would get me to watch it right away. You know what I mean? So I
yeah.
don't know what made me miss this movie as it came out. Honestly, I
Wait,
like George Clooney and I like Catherine Zeta-Jones, so this one I missed on my radar somehow, but it's on there now and it will get watched. Now, especially if I'm getting a recommendation from you that it's
uh,
one of your favorites. I can
this
respect a serious director, directors, putting out something comedic because just like you said, I agree with that. I like a
yeah,
director that's rounded. Like these guys are
yeah.
very rounded for sure. So
The
yeah, I'm
the
gonna definitely
reason
check this out.
the reason you missed it because nobody talks about it. Everybody talks
You're
about,
absolutely right.
Oh Brother Where Art Thou, Fargo. People, I thought Fargo was. I enjoyed it. When I enjoy is a weird word to use, but I thought it was a good movie.
Good movie.
Burn After Reading, I didn't care for that at all, really, to be honest with you. True Grit, I thought that was dope. So
Hmm.
there are movies that come up more often, especially No Country. Those are the movies that come up more often when you're talking about the Coen Brothers, and those are the ones that get repeated, and those are the ones that get discussed about their oeuvre and the ones you got to see. Intolerable Cruelty just kind of gets falls through the cracks. Nobody really brings that one up, so I'm bringing it up because I thought it was
Hell
awesome and
yeah.
it should get talked about more. So just wanted to let that off because I don't, not often are you going to hear people go to bat for Intolerable Cruelty. So this week I did.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna go to bat for it as well. I will watch that and see because yeah, why
Okay.
not?
Well, I appreciate it. And next time I have you on, I don't want you to say, well, I watched it. I thought it was fine, but oh brother, or Burn After Reading much better. But I'm glad I saw it. I don't want to hear that. But yeah,
uh,
okay. Those are that's the How You Like the Maple segment. I'm glad I got those takes. Well, we got those takes off our chest. Now to something a little more normal. Some recommendations, something we saw recently that we either recommend or just kind of want to discuss for a bit. So, what are your recommendations for the folks this week?
the recommendation I brought here is actually a show on HBO Max.
Hmm.
It is now finished, so if you want to go binge it and you have HBO Max, go for it. It is called The White Lotus.
Yeah,
So I'm not sure if you've seen this one or not yet, sir, but
I
uh,
it's one of the ones that if you have a Twitter account, you've heard people talk about it. It's one of those.
yep,
It was the new hotness where you can't escape it, and people are talking about it. But I think I tried to watch somebody else was watching it, and I tried to watch it, but it was like the middle of an episode, and it was just super slow. And I just
yep.
like, what? I'm just gonna wait till it ends. I want to see what people say about it, and if people love it, I'll go back and watch it. But I'm just not gonna dedicate the time to it. So,
Yep,
well,
I get you.
you
I
saw
get
it,
you.
so let me know.
Yeah,
Is it
man.
worth watching? Is it great?
You were right about it being slow. It is definitely a slow burn. I enjoyed the payoff it had. There was some pretty cool twists that happened in it, and for everybody out there that just kind of doesn't know exactly what this is about, the White Lotus is a hotel in Hawaii, more or less. It's part of Hawaii, and there are several rich people who show up to this hotel, and they basically torture the wait staff in a way. I mean, there's all kinds of shit that happens, and more or less, they all have to deal with it as a job. So you get to see these rich people's, lives, and you get to see, how it affects the staff and the background of their stories. But the whole show starts off with a gentleman sitting in an airport alone, and he's just discussing his trip with a married couple across the way who just kind of start a conversation with him and ask him, where he's headed and all this. And he's heading home. He's just done with this trip, that he's leaving from the White Lotus. That's where he stayed on his trip.
Hmm.
And they're like, "Oh, so didn't somebody die there?" And he looks her, he looks this woman right in the face, and he's like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Oh, okay." And she asks him a couple other things, and I won't spoil too much. And he straight up just says, "Fuck you." And he gets up and walks over to the window, right? Like he's just like done with these people just burdening him with questions about stuff. He goes over to the window and you see a box that says human remains on the side of it being loaded into a plane that he's about to
Mm,
board. And then the show kicks back 6 days, and it's like 6 days earlier. So now you're kind of caught on a thread of like, okay, somebody dies, you don't know who dies. So it kind of turns into a almost like Clue, like you're wondering
yeah.
who's going to kill who and why, and you're kind of you watch the show trying to put together who's going to die and how the whole time. If you were me, anyway, that was the gist of the show that kept me hooked. I'm like, oh, I bet this person dies, and I bet this person does this, because there's all these little underlying things that keep happening throughout the episodes. It's only 6 episodes long, so it's not a huge series. They're only about 40 to 50 minutes a piece, so it's something you could binge on a day or a weekend or something. But it gets to some really crazy shit that happens in it, and there's some really WTF moments and stuff. But they're coming out with a second season. They're supposed to be
Mm,
doing like another group of people, from what I understand. It won't be the same characters and stuff. So I'm curious to see where they continue with the show. But it definitely drew my interest. It kept me wanting to watch it, and I'm just passing that along to everybody I work with. Trying to get them to watch it, so I have people to talk to about it, have seen it, because it's messed up. So right now I got a guy who's got one episode to go, and then I'll be able to like talk to him about the whole show and see what his
yeah.
feelings are, because it's definitely trippy. Like the whole series was just a little trippy, and overall enjoyable. It was good. Very dramatic. So if you're not a drama person, steer clear. There's characters you love to hate, and there's characters you want to see win in it. But more or less, you're going through this up and down drama of their lives and wondering who has been killed or who has died somehow or another through the 6 episodes. It's very cool.
Yeah. See, I guess my issue is that, like I was saying with Twitter, I don't know, every 3 months or so, there's a new hotness. There's
Yeah.
something you got to be watching, or else you're gonna miss out on. And I saw so many people talking about White Lotus, but it's just I missed episode 1, and then like I said, episode 2 was really slow, and I'm like,
Hmm.
I know there's going to be another one in 3 months. So do I really want to dedicate putting that time commitment to watching, 8 hours or whatever of a really slow show just to be a part of the conversation? So I told
Right.
myself, you know what, I'm gonna miss it. And if people say, "Oh my gosh, the ending of White Lotus, it was the best. You have to watch it," then I'll go back and watch it. But from the sounds of it, kind of what I'm getting from your vibe, it was interesting. It wasn't a waste of your time, but it's
Right.
probably not going to be the best thing you watch this year. Is that fair to
No,
say?
would not be. Yes, exactly. It might be in the top 10 list if I had to pick things by the end of the year, but it probably going to be a 9 or a 10 if I picked out of that list. Yeah. Toward the bottom so
Mm.
far. Yeah. There's other shows I have watched that have been better for sure.
That's where I get that vibe out. Did you ever watch The Outsider? I think that was that HBO or Showtime.
Did not watch that one yet. Nope.
Yeah, it's Ben Middleton, Cynthia Erivo, basically the same type of not well, it's the same type of thing where you're watching it and something's weird and it's kind of the mystery and
Mm,
you're watching it to see what happened. This
yep.
one, The Outsider, has a little bit more sci-fi twist to it. Not sci-fi, um, fantasy twist to it. And I
Okay.
watched it all the way through, and I thought it was interesting. I'm glad I watched it, but again, it wasn't amazing. It wasn't. If they
Mm,
come out with a season 2, I probably won't watch it. So yeah, it was HBO. So
gotcha.
it's one of those things where I don't know if I want to do that again. I don't know if I want to, because a movie is 2 hours. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's 90 minutes. It's good. You invest 2 hours in it, and it's it. A TV show has a lower budget per episode, and it's 4 or 5 times as long. And I don't know if I have that kind of dedication. So if I want
Yeah.
to watch something, I want to know it's great. And I don't know that.
And
Yeah,
there's still that valid fear that a lot, that they're not going to continue a series that you love too, and you
yeah.
put all that time into it. So I completely understand that. You kind of wait, hold out hope, and see if they pop for another season, and then you'll jump then kind of deal. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I've been
This
I've
is
been
definitely for the
bitten.
drama fans.
I've been bitten too many times with falling in love with a show and it has a terrible ending. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to wait to see that it's great, and then I'll go watch it. And if they have a season 2 from the for the better, so.
Yep, that's totally fair. Makes sense.
Probably not going to watch it, but what I may do is just go read the synopsis and okay, so that's what happened. Interesting,
Right,
And
right, yeah.
what I like to do in situations like that, I was like, was this based on a book? Because I'll read the book, even though like it'll probably take the same amount of hours to read the book. For whatever reason, I prefer just reading a book of seeing what happened rather than watching 10 hours of television or whatever. But that is the White Lotus on HBO Max, right?
HBO Max, yes, sir.
HBO Max. All right. Anything else you want to recommend, or we're moving on?
We're good to move on. Yeah.
All right. So I haven't watched a whole lot. But one thing I did watch that I would put in the recommend category, that's actually on HBO Max as well. I'm going back through with the stuff that I haven't seen in a while and just want to rewatch and kind of dig in. I saw Howls Moving Castle, Studio Ghibli movie, one of the more famous of the Hayao Miyazaki films. I don't know if you're too familiar with it, but Miyazaki's he's famous for animated films, and this is one of his better ones. And I understand why. I really like My Neighbor Totoro. That's one of the famous ones. Spirited Away, those movies. I'd never actually seen Howl's Moving Castle, so I was like, I had an afternoon free. I'm like, what, let's. A certain type of movies you kind of got to be in the mood for. Just kind of, let me see what it's about. And yeah, so I sat down and watched it, and I think I put on Letterboxd. It was visually gorgeous, an amazing story that just kind of, the ending just kind of wasn't satisfying to me. But with a lot of Miyazaki films, it's not really, I don't want to say it's not about the story, it's about the journey. It's a little bit cliche, but
Right.
all of his stuff was hand drawn. It's just gorgeous to just look at, to know that somebody created this, and the time and effort it went through, and the art style, and just watching the shapes they make. And I don't know, it's incredibly gorgeous. I really enjoyed watching it. Basically, the story is about a girl in the town. There's a magical moving castle outside of town that is owned by a wizard, and she, like, demons are after her, and she gets cursed by a witch, and she goes to live at the magical house with the wizard, and then magical things happen. you know,
Okay.
that it sounds silly or whatever to say, but that's not really kind of what it's just about watching it, enjoying it, and seeing magical, cartoon, for lack of a better word. But this is, they don't make stuff like this anymore. They make kids, the kids movies that aren't for kids these days. That's what I would call this. It's a cartoon that's not really for children per se. Children can watch it, children have fun and just enjoy it on the pretty spectacle level, but it's for adults to watch and understand the meanings and the themes and whatnot. The stuff they make these days in that category is like Soul and Inside Out, and it's not the same. You're not. I really like anime because you appreciate with the message. They treat you like an adult, even though it's animation is just a medium. It's just a way to tell the story. But I feel like Pixar, especially these days, I don't know. Pixar used to have the magic, and now they have the formula. I'll put it like that. So I don't know. I'm saying all this to say, if you haven't seen Howl's Moving Castle, it's a classic. Go watch it. I enjoyed it. It's beautiful, but the ending was still kind of whatever. So that's how I feel about it. Have you ever seen these?
I have not seen these. I see it's a Studio Ghibli, which is cool.
Ghibli, yeah.
Or Ghibli, I'm sorry, yeah, Ghibli. But I am actually just starting to get into this for sure. In the anime things and movies and all of this. It definitely looks cool. I'm looking it up and checking it out while we're talking here. But I'm curious, is it like dramatic? Is there action to it? Or
yeah, it's I would call it a drama. It's not a comedy. It's not a silly kids movie. I would call it a drama, even though they're magical, fantastical elements. It's really a drama about, a woman that was cursed, and she moves in with a magician.
Okay.
I don't,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
it's silly to put those two phrases together, being a serious movie, a serious drama, as well as fantastical, magical dragon, whatever cartoon. But that's what it
Yeah.
is, and I think that's why people love the Miyazaki films as they do. Let me see: Spirit Away, My Neighbor Totoro, Howls Moving Castle, Princess Mononoke. I think those are the four big ones.
Hmm.
Let me see.
And now, did you watch it English or did you watch it dubbed with a Japanese language?
No, this was dubbed, and this is one of the better
Okay.
ones I've ever.
I can
I mean,
see that.
actually,
The cast is
yeah,
great.
yeah. The cast is bananas. So,
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
if
Christian
I can,
Bale and Josh
yeah,
Hutcherson's in it. Billy Crystal, Lauren Bacall. Man, it's got some big ones.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the real big issue I have with dubbed versus subbed or whatever. Like the anime TV shows don't traditionally put this kind of effort into dub. It's just a cast, and the
Hmm.
words don't necessarily match with the tone of voice of the actor,
Right.
and that's why I prefer sub, just because I can hear the inflection that is meant when something is said, and I don't,
Agreed.
little subtitles don't really bother me too much, so I appreciate it that way. Just a lot of people hate dubbed, and I don't necessarily hate dubbed. It's just got to be done right. And if I listen to the first episode and it doesn't sound right, then I'll just switch it and watch it in dub. Doesn't bother me. I don't speak
Yep.
Japanese,
Exactly.
but I don't
Right.
mind
But I
reading the
can read
words.
English, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got two kids, so half the time I'm watching something, I'm watching it with volume low with subs on anyway. So what difference does
There
it
you
matter
go.
if it's in English or Japanese?
That's
Yeah,
right.
indeed. Okay, so that is Howl's Moving Castle and The White Lotus, both available on HBO Max. So go check those out. Those are our recommendations for this week. And now we can get to the reason you came here: Jungle Cruise.
So what are you doing out here?
There is a legend in the jungles of the Amazon of a tree that heals all. It could change the world, but if it gets into the wrong hands, it could awaken a great evil. I believe that the legend is real,
Which it's not.
and I'm going to find it.
Which you won't.
And when I do, just imagine the lives that could be saved.
All right, that was from the trailer for 2021's Jungle Cruise, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Emily Blunt. All right, you are our guest this week. So tell the folks, what did you think of the movie? What are your thoughts going into it, and how did you generally like it?
Yeah, I went into it. Didn't really have too many expectations, as many times as it kind of got delayed with the pandemic and everything happening. But I enjoyed it like more than I thought. Really, I enjoy almost everything The Rock is in. He has always been one of my biggest wrestling guys from my younger days. So, but I've seen him from the beginning of everything, and I had expectations for him, but I didn't have expectations for the movie. If that makes any sense, uh, he killed it though. The just there's puns in the movie that are just right up our alley as a family. Like we all got to laughing at the puns, and the writing of it was just hysterical. It fit great, and the overall like arc of the movie and where things went, and it just kind of gave you that fantastical feeling that you just don't get it too often in movies, honestly, anymore. Not to say that I dislike Marvel movies or anything along those lines, but you always have like, there's just so many superheroes and these just crazy over the top action movies and stuff. It's kind of fun just to go to a movie and just completely forget about anything and theories and everything else, going on in the background while you're watching it. You don't have to think too much on this one. It's just a really, really fun adventure, honestly.
Yeah,
Visually striking for sure. I really enjoyed the visuals of the movie. The CG was done really, really well. I thought we loved it as a family. That all four of us watched it. My wife and my two kids. I have a boy and a girl, 7 and 12, and they loved it as well. We watched it a couple times since then, so definitely enjoyed it. It's got the feel of, and you might agree with this. I'm kind of curious, but it kind of felt to me like a mix of like Indiana Jones and Pirates of the Caribbean. Like kind of felt like that, like just smashed
yeah,
together. And I love both of those movies on their own, and I don't see anything wrong with taking the good parts of those and just slamming them together. So I'm all about it. So, what about you, sir? How is digging it?
You saying that made me want to write down my combo. So, all right. So what I was talking about recently, I have been kind of a Debbie Downer on this podcast because I don't like much. I'm real particular with my movies. I get real picky with them, and if I don't like the story or whatever, I just walk away sour, like it was great. But I say that to say I went into this with very low expectations. I just with the pushbacks and it being, a Disney whatever movie, I thought I was going to see some garbage, just some little silly Disney garbage. So I was like, okay, whatever, let's check it out. I think about 10 minutes in, I had to stop to do something. And I got my phone out and I was like, I'm 10 minutes into Jungle Cruise and I'm pretty sure this is my favorite movie of the year. I don't know. Like the ending was a little bit more, kind of what I expected, but the movie in general, I really dug this. This was funny. This was so the movies I'm going to compare it to, I feel like it was a combination of Pirates of the Caribbean, especially later on in the movie. That's very much Pirates
For
vibes.
sure.
Also, National Treasure with Nick Cage and Mummy with Brendan Fraser. Those are the movies I'd say that this movie reminds me of best. And those are awesome movies that I can rewatch at any time. So
hell yeah.
That's why, like I said, this was a pleasant surprise. I put it like that. If I would have gone into this expecting the best movie of the year, then I probably would have watched it differently. And then I would have done the thing I do where I kind of pick it apart and whatever on it. But even still, I enjoyed watching this. I thought Emily Blunt was funny. I think she's a very good comedic actor. I think The Rock is made for movies like this, and the story does take some twists and turns. I feel like it's not the rote, movie that I expected. And after this came out, there were many like articles I saw people posting saying, why can't The Rock be in romantic relationships? Why is he too cool for? Why can't he? It's supposed to be loveless, and I saw, big movie takes about because he's supposed to be the man you want to be and not, whatever. When I watched this and I didn't expect, any romance, but there was romance in it. He was a romantic lead. And, so I'm like, I don't know. I was very pleasantly surprised. I very much enjoyed this movie and I definitely recommend it. When the pandemic was kind of, right now it's ramping back up, but when it was kind of coming down a little bit, I thought Fast and the Furious 9 was going to be what saved movie theaters, because even in my head, I'm like, when that comes out, I'm going to go put my butt in that seat and I'm going to watch it. But by the time it finally did come out, I didn't really care. It's like, I know exactly what it's going to be. I know it's going to be over the top, action, family madness or whatever. And then when the reviews kind of came out, and that's kind of exactly what people said it was, and it was over the top, silly, too much. And I don't know, but at that point in the pandemic or whatever, that wasn't what I was looking for. And I'm looking at the box office right now for Jungle Cruise. Again, a movie I had very little hopes for, a movie that was pushed back, all them times. And I just thought that this was going to be whatever. But opening weekend, it made $35 million. And I thought, well, maybe, people, it's Disney, and you got kids and of course, maybe it's going to have that big bump, whatever. But it kept making money. And as of right now, $94,528,580, just shy of $100 million. That by itself says that this is something different. It's not just a whatever movie Disney tossed off. It's has legs, and this people want to see it. It's a good story. And I see why. This, even during the pandemic, this is, I wouldn't personally, but I understand people taking their kids out to see this. This is a good, you can watch it right now with Disney Plus, but I feel like this is something people actually go to well, obviously $100 million worth. This is something people have seen in a movie theater because this is a good family action fun movie. This is what people were missing. Not Fast 9, not cars jumping out of planes. Whatever. This is the kind of thing that this is the kind of movie that saves theaters for to be hyperbolic. But yeah, like I fully understand why people enjoyed this because this was dope in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And you said the Mummy. That is definitely a probably better than Indiana Jones as far as a comparison for this movie for sure. Yeah,
So what?
the Mummy, pirates mashed together.
Yeah, like I said, we'll get into spoilers in a bit, but there's definitely some pirates in Pirates of the Caribbean in this movie. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So what do you think of the acting? How'd you like The Rock's performance here?
Yeah, it was different, like you said, he played a romantic lead, which you don't notice because he does it so good. Like, it's
Yeah.
just he hit the marks on everything right. I mean, the character starts out as just kind of like a, who's this kinda, guy running jungle cruises, throwing puns out left
Mhm.
and right and making you laugh to the point where it's like, "Oh, this guy actually cares." And, like, you forget like, I actually honestly, I forgot he was The Rock, man. Like, I was in the character, like, I'm like, he is in the character. He's killing this role right now. He took it serious. And you as you said, is Emily Blunt, I maybe that, that chemistry was definitely there for sure. Maybe that helped him kinda
Mhm.
just kick his game up some too, maybe because she rolls. I mean, she's good at what she does, very good. She was great too. I haven't seen the Mary Poppins movie or anything yet, but I've heard she
Yeah,
had
I
a pretty
didn't.
good role played in that, maybe a little more comedy, vibes to it. But she was funny. Like she played it off, and he calls her pants and stuff, throughout the thing,
Yeah,
and she kind of throws quips back at him and stuff, calling him Skippy and things. So I thought that was
yeah.
great.
I thought they
The
had really
acting
good
was good,
chemistry. Yeah,
very good chemistry. Yeah, it was definitely well cast for sure.
yeah. So I'm just looking at his, recent movies. Ballers. I know he's a big agent. I don't know. I've never seen this. I don't know what kind of
It's a good
romance.
show. It's a
Yeah,
good show,
okay.
but not romantic.
Yeah, Hobbs and Shaw, nope.
Nope.
Skyscraper. I mean, he has a wife in Skyscraper, but it's not really
And
like That's just she's just she's the wife in the movie. There's not really a whole lot of romance. Rampage, nope.
nope.
Just action.
Nope. Yep.
Jumanji, nope.
Nope.
Baywatch, nope.
Nope.
Fate and Furious, nope. So it's like
Nope.
Central Intelligence, no. So it's like you don't.
Yeah.
I'm not used to seeing him, and I guess I don't know if that was on purpose for the image he was trying to cultivate or not, but
Mm.
I mean, he it fully worked in this, in this movie. I didn't feel like, they were trying to lay it on too thick. I think the jokes work. And in fact, it's one of those things where at the beginning of the movie, I was watching them play off each other. And I was like, I'm going to be really disappointed if at the end of this movie, these two just kind of are friends and don't get together because they work, And I'm
Right.
saying
Right.
that about, The Rock and Emily Blunt just watching some Disney movie. And I was invested early. So I was like, that's just a testament to, the writing and kind of the story and how much fun I was having. And then Emily Blunt, obviously, I love, I didn't see The Quiet Place 2 because Quiet Place 1 was just kind of, I thought the beginning was interesting, but it didn't really just land well for me. So I never went back and watched Quiet Place 2. But
Mhm.
Live, Die, Repeat or was it Day
Yeah,
After,
there you
not
go.
Day After Tomorrow. What's the real
Edge of
title?
Tomorrow.
Not Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow.
That
Yeah.
that's probably my favorite action movie in I don't know of all time, maybe, but definitely in the last 10 years. I think that was a perfect action movie, action sci-fi movie. I really like. That's another one that's truly underrated. More people that should
Agreed.
be on the top shelf of everybody's action sci-fi list because that was a great movie. So yeah, I'm very much in on her, and this is there are action elements to this, and I fully believe her being an action movie type person. So she very much worked for me, and there was Paul Giamatti. I love Paul Giamatti.
Oh
he was
man,
in
yeah.
this. Jesse Plemons. He was the evil guy in this movie.
Mm.
His character. I mean, it wasn't as heavy as I thought it would be. It wasn't as
Yeah.
important. I guess I would say it was more kind of a side villain. I don't know if that's fair to say, but I think it's fun seeing him just be silly because he's an excellent comedic actor as well. But he's a really good serious. He's the new not Paul Giamatti. What's the word I'm looking for? Schenectady, New York. My goodness, what? Okay, I'm forgetting his name. Schenectady, New York. I don't know why that's the first movie I think of. I'm talking about him. Philip Seymour Hoffman. That's who I think of when I see and then I forgot his name. Sorry. Oh my goodness. I was okay. Jesse Plemons. Yeah. So Philip Seymour Hoffman is who I think of when I see Jesse Plemons do his thing. So I think he's gonna be just one of the amazing actors in the next 10 years. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he does. So I don't know. I really like the cast. And those were like the main guy. I mean, the brother Jack Whitehall. He was he did his thing. He That's why. I thought of The Mummy really with him. He really played a similar role to the brother in The Mummy. So
Yep,
I really,
very true.
I just really enjoyed watching this movie. It's not the Disney cash grab I expected. I thought this was really good, and if they make more of them, I'm down to watch them. So
I really hope they do.
yeah, the way it ended, it's quasi. I don't know how they would make another one without getting into spoilers, but it's Disney. I know
Right.
they can. If you get the right writers in the writing room, they'll make it happen, and I'll put my butt in the seat to watch it. So yeah, definitely it's a recommend
Yeah.
for me. All right, before we get into spoilers, any final things you want to say about the film?
It's the special effects. I think people were harsh on them. Honestly, people were talking about how they overuse CGI in this movie, and I said a couple things about Marvel earlier. It's like those movies are 100% CGI. You know what I mean? Like they
Yeah.
could have put The Rock and Emily Blunt on a piece of wood in water and built the boat around them, but they actually had boats in water going through jungles in Virginia and making this movie legit. So when they relied on leaned on, I should say, CGI, they did it the right way for the right reasons. And when we do get into spoilers, you'll understand why. But it's like don't go that far with this movie. The CGI was done well. It was used the right amount, and it was done really good. Like I mean, the effects they used were really really good, and you could tell they even used practical effects. There's one scene where, and not any spoilers in this, but they have to outrun a torpedo, and you could tell that was a lot of that was practical. Which I love to see the mixture of that in movies. So um, yeah, that's just one of the last things I wanted to say is
Yeah,
it's
so
just not cool to be dogging it for something like that when so many movies you watch a Star Wars or a Marvel movie, it's in all CG. You know what I mean? So come on.
so oh, so you said that earlier, and I let it slide, but now I am going to give you some pushback on that one because there are times when it worked for me, but especially in the not spoiling anything, but in the Pirates of the Caribbean esque parts later on, I
Mm,
did feel like the CGI didn't work for me, and there were scenes with snakes, I'll say, that I did
okay.
feel like the CGI was a little questionable for me, But agreed, I did like the practical stuff, and I do think it's not as bad as kind of people harped on it for being. But I feel like there were scenes in here where I'm like little CGI heavy for me, and
Mm,
I don't know with the Marvel movies, it's kind of what you expect, and a lot of it's done like with the suits. I'm looking at those suits, and I would have never, believed that those suits were completely CGI, but they were. But there's stuff in here where I understand it's not a. Actually, what is the budget on this one? I don't think it's a $200 million movie.
yeah. It was 200 million
It,
for the
it is.
movie.
It's a $200 million movie, so they're spending
Yeah.
the same amount of money. So why do the jungle scenes look a little, less? I would say, well, maybe because the Rock is getting $40 million, but the Iron Man's getting $40 million. So
All
they're spending
right.
the same amount of money. So I don't know. I feel like there some of the stuff didn't quite work as well for me. Again, like I said, some of the CGI nisticities looked better in 2004's Pirates of the Caribbean 2 than they looked in 2021's Jungle Cruise. But again, those are minor quibbles. It's just I really enjoyed this movie. Nothing was so bad it took me out of it.
Mm-mm.
I just wanted to push back on your take of nothing was overly CGI. Well, maybe they could have cut back
They could have
15%.
spent more money. I just don't think there was
Yeah,
too much CGI. I won't
true.
disagree with
Yeah,
what you're saying there. Like everybody just seemed like they were all saying there was just too much CGI in the movie. It's like the amount of CGI. I can go against the quality of CGI for sure.
Okay,
'Cause
that's fair. I think,
I
yeah,
know
that's fair.
exactly what you're saying,
Yeah,
'cause I agree with what you're saying on that. It's just like there was CGI because it was needed. Like, they're not gonna do this any other way, and we'll talk about that
yeah.
in spoilers, obviously, but
Yeah, indeed. But overall, like I said, I really enjoyed this movie. It's funny, it's good actiony movie. Like I said, if when you're thinking of this movie, don't think of Disney cash grab. Think of The Mummy.
Mhm.
Think of those
Yep.
that genre of movie. If you like those, I think you're really very much gonna like this. So that is our recommendations. And without further ado, let's get to spoilers. So from this point forward, spoilers for Jungle Cruise.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
All right, we are now fully in spoilers. What to talk about first? The twist. How'd you feel about the twist when it turns out that the conquistador that disappeared long ago? It turns out that was the Rock this whole time. What'd you think of that twist?
Honestly, I didn't see it coming. What I thought was when he fell from the tree, after being stabbed, I just thought, okay, he's gonna come back somehow, but that's gonna
Yeah,
be because the tears of the moon somehow they're gonna find him
yeah,
later, washed downstream, and they're gonna bring him back to life, and that's gonna be the whole deal with it because then she's in love with him and everything. So my brain immediately just skipped
yeah,
over like, oh, he's not dead. I ain't worried
yeah,
about
yeah.
that. We'll see him toward the end
100%.
maybe.
Yeah, I didn't think he died. I thought he was coming back. I just didn't think in this way. But yeah,
Yeah,
I was.
exactly.
Again, it was one of those things in hindsight. You're like, oh, okay, I should have seen that
Uh-huh.
coming, but I didn't. So I give
Yeah.
them credit for that. Yeah,
Yeah, they did that whole thing where they like, they put it right in front of your face, but then they just real quickly at a glance they just throw something the other direction, and your brains and eyes look the other way, and you completely
yeah.
forget what all the other evidence that you already had.
To be honest with you, that when it was revealed that he was the conquistador or whatever, that's when my brain went to, oh, okay, that's how they're gonna not make him a love interest. That's how they're not gonna be able to be together in the end, because Dwayne's never a love interest, so they're gonna
Yeah,
want to be together, but he's gonna have to go disappear or turn it to dust or whatever because he belongs with the dead or whatever. But they didn't. They
yeah,
actually let them be together in the end, and I thought that was dope. I think the beginning how they had it wasn't like it wasn't heavy handed. They would just have a glance and kind of look at each other. And you're like, okay, I see where
yeah,
this is
right.
going. A lot of movies will make it super heavy handed and they'll stare at each other for 5 seconds and they'll have little sneak whatever. But their relationship, their romance was done really well. It's like I watched them
Yeah, it
kind of
was.
have their bickering and have the little moments, and it's like I can see how these two people will work together and get together. So again, me being invested in the romance of a Disney Jungle Cruise movie, I got to give them credit for that.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, they really did do a good job as far as the story and romance went. Good, and you're right. I felt that somewhat as well as the movie went on, and I thought, nah, there's not going to be once he wasn't dead and he was revealed to just be undead, basically for the curse. I was like, okay, they won't be together just because of that. I thought, okay, they've just given up on the whole love interest altogether, because now he's not dead, and she don't have to save him, so there's not going to be that whole mantra going, the whole
Yeah,
rest of the movie. So I feel exactly what you're talking about. Just a little bit different aspect as to why I stopped thinking about it too.
yeah, indeed. Okay, so now let's get into the very much Pirates of the Caribbean ism of this movie.
Very
So
much.
it's just they are literally well,
Eh,
they're conquistadors. I mean, they're
um,
conquerors. So I'm not gonna call
right.
them pirates, but they were pirates in everything but name. They looked
Yep.
exactly the same as the I don't know monsters or villains or whatever you want to call them from the pirates movies. They were the undead. They had gross stuff dripping on them. They couldn't get killed. It's like this is literally a one for one ripoff from pirates films, and I think honestly they were my least favorite part of the film, and they were kind of I don't know, a minor part. Both villains, like they were both half villains that equal to a villain, but
Yeah.
neither one of them were super villainous, neither super heavy. And I think the just getting the plant or whatever that was the biggest hurdle of this movie. Both villains were kind of taken out, relatively easy. I don't know if it's easy because The Rock did have to sacrifice himself, but I don't know. I never felt either one of the villains were like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so tough. And I was ever invested in the villains. They were the weakest link of this movie for me, in my opinion.
I can't disagree with you on that. That they had the CGI part of it. I mean, one was like a bee hive, basically. It was always
Yeah.
dripping with like honey and stuff, which I just like. I was just weirded out about. I'm like, man, I would not like that.
Yeah.
Sticky all the time.
He was like, we're
You
gross.
know,
I'm tasty.
right? Yeah, no kidding,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, then the guy with the snakes. So we talked about a little bit earlier, and then the one that was the German, right? He's the German prince. They
Yeah.
made him out to be another bad guy. And I'm spacing the third one, which just goes to show that the bad guys were not the reason to watch this movie. Or the fourth one, I should say. Wasn't there a fourth also in there? The snake guy, the honey guy, and then there was one always like
Oh,
mud or
yeah.
something, right? He was like made of mud or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
But
I don't,
yeah,
they just villains,
they
whatever.
were yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So they didn't, they just seemed kind of whatever I never felt like they were a real threat to the Rock. And then B,
Nope.
they were just kind of defeated by the jungle at the end of the day. They're just the undead, and like their punishment or whatever, it just seemed, oh, we're just immortal, we just live forever now. We just so happen to have to live near the river. That's, I
Yeah.
mean, as far as punishments go, I'm kind of cool with that.
Yeah, that's not bad.
If you're gonna curse me, let me be an immortal, just living out here in the jungle. I mean, it's not terrible, whatever. But yeah,
No, yeah.
so
I got to be within a few hundred feet of the river, and that's enough.
yeah. All right. We can get to Jesse Plemons in a second. But one thing I want to call a criticism here. What is the brother's name? McGregor, Jack Whitehall.
Yeah.
So what felt really odd to me is they made him gay, and it was just like they went out of the way to say it was okay, whatever, and just like, oh, you're into the other type. We'll cheers to the other type or whatever it is. Then he made weird. I don't know. Was it when the guy when he had the knife through his chest and he was like, you want me to
get behind you and wiggle
back?
a little bit?
Yeah, you want me to go? It's like, that's what are you saying?
Yeah.
That's like, I mean, I guess you gotta. It's the thing with Disney where they want credit for being progressive. You want your kudos for being LGBT friendly, but it's like
Right.
that's a weird representation. I guess you get your kudos for being okay with being gay, but it's like he doesn't get any romantic interest. Like I just assumed like one of the Amazon people he was going to catch an eye with, or when they.
Right.
I thought he would have some kind of like in a lot of these type movies you get at the end there's just you get to throw off somebody you like at the end, just throw off romance at the end. But he didn't have anybody that he was romantically interested in this movie. And then they made the weird, the wiggle jokes when the guy had his knife through his back. I don't know. I think Disney wants their kudos. They want their brownie points for having representation, but I don't know that this did anything for anyone, honestly.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it was nice of an inclusion for kudos only. You could tell that I don't think that's anybody would look at that any other way, honestly. He didn't really get like his just deserves with the movie either. Like it just kind of felt like an open-ended character that just kind of tags along with his sister, and now he's going to tag along with his sister and The Rock. You know what I mean? So yeah. That was a little bit of an unfortunate gap in the end, I guess.
And my biggest kind of issue with that is his character is defined pretty much by his gayness. He's gay.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't fit in with that world. He was shunned. His sister accepts him, so he's going to go to the ends of the earth to be with his sister because she accepted him for who he is. But that is completely watered down by the fact that his sister is an outcast as well. She wears pants. She's bold. She doesn't act womanly in the type of world where a woman is supposed to act how a woman acts. So why is it that she gets to be independent and wear who she is on her chest, but he just has to be submissive and is defined by that, So I just think there are mixed messages here, and that, you don't really get your brownie points for me for having inclusion here. But I just wanted to call that out. Just, it just felt weird to me. So, but yeah, moving on, the other villain, Jesse Plemons, his character was, again, it was silly, but I don't know, like this could have been anybody. I feel like Jesse Plemons, he's got so much in his actor bag. I feel like he could have brought more to the character. They could have done more with him. He just
Mm-hmm.
talked in his weird German accent, and
Yeah.
for some reason, he had special powers where he could talk to the snakes. I thought there was gonna be some secret thing where he was a part of the mission somehow, or there was
Yeah.
gonna be more weight to it. But no, he's just a throw off villain who gets crushed in the end. So I don't.
Yeah.
I just I just feel like he didn't. I just wanted more from the Jesse Plemons, but just because it was Jesse Plemons, I feel like if that would have been some random unnamed actor, I feel like it would have been fine. But I wanted Jesse Plemons to do more.
Yeah, because he was a character in Breaking Bad,
Yeah,
and he was a character you loved to hate. And I really, when I saw him in this movie, I went, "Oh yeah, here we go. I got another guy I can love to hate." And he was just too goofy and just kind of off point for what I was expecting. I guess it was just
yeah,
way tamer than anything I expected from him. So yeah, I mean, he goes right into the lump with the CGI bad guys that are just kind of like, you know what? They're bad
yeah.
guys. They're gonna get defeated. That's it. They're not too three-dimensional. They're really just kind of one-dimensional, honestly. So
I think his character. I don't know. Have you seen Game Night from 2018?
I have not seen that one.
Yeah, it's basically friends have a game night and things go awry where they think one of the guys is pretending to get kidnapped, but he really is getting kidnapped,
I
and
I lied. I do. I have seen that one.
yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah. So Jesse Plemons, I think he plays a
He's
version of this character, but he plays it better in Game Night, where he's a little bit silly, a little bit evil, but it's like he's overall, it's not totally dark. I think the version of that character is who he played in Game Night, and I liked it better there. I feel like if you're gonna lean into it, he's memorable in Game Night. I don't think he's memorable here. I think that could have been played by anybody.
Yeah, I don't think he's memorable either. Yeah, no, I forgot about him in Game Night, even though he is more memorable in that movie.
Yeah,
This obviously is way more fresh on my mind than the movie from 3 years ago. But
yeah, yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
no, I remember his character because he wanted to just be part of the game, and he just worked his way right in there. So
Indeed,
yeah, I
yeah.
remember that. That was good stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that's pretty much our review. I mean, as much as we liked it and had fun with it, it is at the end of the day like a popcorn flick, but a really good one. Something you can rewatch and throw on, with the kids again in the future. So there's not a whole lot of depth to it, but we had fun watching it. We had fun talking about it. Do you have any final thoughts you want to speak about the movie to the people before we go?
No, I mean, I agree with what you said. It's a popcorn flick. Go just shut your brain off, watch the movie, enjoy it. Pretend you're at Disney since we all can't go 100% to Disney right now, and
Yeah.
just enjoy the movie at home, or if you can venture out to the theaters and be safe about it, then do the same as well there. But yeah, I think this might be what Disney's going to try and lean in toward for a new blockbuster film franchise, honestly. So yeah.
And I'm looking forward to it. And my final thought here, the director, he did Nonstop with Liam Neeson, I think, and Unknown and Orphan. Actually, Orphan was one of kind of the better horror movies in the last, whatever. But he's doing Black Adam with The Rock, so that makes me look
Oh
more forward to Black Adam because this was better
yeah.
than I expected to be. And again, Black Adam, it's The Rock in a comic book hero movie, so I'm looking forward to it to that reason. But it's kind of the same thing with this one, where I just kind of think I know what it's going to be, so I'm not necessarily looking forward to it. But seeing what Jungle Cruise turned into, this makes me look forward more to Black Adam and whatever that's going to be. So I'm actually more excited about that now, knowing that the director directed this. So. All right, those were our thoughts on Jungle Cruise. So yeah, Nick, before we go here, do you want to let the people know where they can find your podcast, where they can follow you, and just kind of keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, you can find us on Twitter just by searching at Loud Thumbs. You can tweet at us there. We try to stay active. I get on there as often as I can and share gaming news and updates, and we'll share the episodes as well on there too. Obviously, we're on Spotify. You can find us there and many other platforms for podcasts just by searching Loud Thumbs. Yeah, email into us, loudthumbs@gmail.com, and give us anything topics wise or questions you might have or anything you want us to talk about. And well, we just have a good time with it. So we try to include our audience as much as we can and give you guys those shout outs. So appreciate it.
Indeed. Fantastic. All right, that's the Loud Thumbs podcast. I will definitely link to it in the show notes. You can check for it there. You can follow me on Twitter at MyMovieFixPod. I currently have 9 followers, so let's get into double digits, folks. If you're listening to this, follow me there. That's at MyMovieFixPod. If you have, questions, comments, concerns, you disagree with one of our takes, and whatever it may be, you can email me at mymoviefixpodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening to this on Apple, drop me 5 stars. If you think it's worth less than 5 stars, then don't. Just keep on living your life. So, I appreciate you listening to this. And if you have a friend that might be interested, tell them about it. If you have a friend that only likes history podcasts, lie to them. Tell them this is a history podcast. Just get people to listen. But yeah, all right. That's it for the podcast. Now, before we go, I always like to end on a send-off, something non-movie related, something that brought us joy in our lives. So we just want to, give you a little nugget, and you can take that with you during your week. So, Nick, do you have something you'd like to share with the folks?
Yeah, definitely. Small little tidbit about me is I'm a huge Guardians of the Galaxy fan. If you ever saw my house, you would think I was a little crazy, maybe. But
just so the listeners know, we're videoing right now, and I can literally see the little figurines behind his head right now. So he is not lying to you. He's 100% a fan. Sorry. Go ahead.
Nope, no lying. I'll tell you the truth. I own up to all of it. So I actually just found a podcast that is actually put out by Marvel, and it's called Old Man Starlord. It's a scripted podcast. And honestly, guys, I've never listened to a scripted podcast in my life. And I thought, you know what? I'll give it a shot. It's right up my alley. One of my favorite things out there. It's 10 episodes long. They're all 30 minutes apiece. So it's not, real long, something you can kind of listen to on a lunch break or something, maybe. And they kind of go over some future, some future stuff that has happened. It's just Star-Lord and it's just Rocket, and they're kind of caught in a trap and they're having to get out of it. And it's got some great acting in it. It's got Danny Glover's in it. He plays some side roles and stuff like that. So it's got big names in there as well. So far, I've only listened to 2 episodes. So I'm an hour in, and it's dope. Like, it's really good. It's funny. It's got music. It's got its own soundtrack going on with it. And it's good. It's just first one I've listened to, honestly, but it really drug me in and really makes me feel like I'm, watching another movie or a comic book. But it's worth checking out. Old Man Starlord. It's on anything you want to search up for podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere. So check that one out. I highly recommend that if you're any sort of Marvel fans or enjoy comics or comedy and music, because it's all in there.
Indeed. All right. That's Old Man Starlord. I definitely want to check that out. I rarely listen to scripted podcasts because they have to be, I don't know, it's like an audiobook to me. So it's got to be a good story that makes me, want to tune in. But that sounds dope. So I'll definitely check that out. So I appreciate the recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
In the very much the same vein, I also want to recommend a podcast with very different subject matter. Again, I am a fantasy football addict. I put it like that. I am very heavy into it. I'm going to be in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I believe 9 different fantasy football leagues this year. 6 of those are money leagues. The other 3 are just for fun. And I'm addicted to it. I love it. Before I got into fantasy football, I didn't watch sports at all, like basketball, nothing. And I don't know. And I still, to this day, only watch NFL, but I'm into it. I'm hooked. I love it. So I'm a fantasy football addict, and I listen to 3 hours of podcasts every single day. Well, more than that sometimes when I throw in a movie podcast or something else, but I listen to 3 separate fantasy football podcasts every day because they put out daily episodes because there's always news. Somebody gets hurt, somebody gets traded, or, and then during the actual season, they're Thursday night games or Sunday games, and sometimes Wednesday night games, and things get crazy. So they put out episodes pretty much every day, and I'm listening to it just to hear what's going on, who got hurt, and what the projections are. And this, honestly, the preseason to the day the kickoff starts, that's 50% of the fun, 60% of the fun, and the other 40 is through the whole rest of the season. Just the building up to it, the drafting, the picking your team. This is crunch time. This is the best part of it. But my recommendation is the Fantasy Footballers podcast. It's one of the 3 I listen to. It's probably my favorite. 3 guys they're experts. They know what they're talking about. But the other ones are like CBS podcast, and that's Fantasy Football Focus, and Fantasy Football Focus is ESPN, and Fantasy Football Today is CBS. Those are like, more polished, more official because they're representing their channel, whatever. Fantasy footballers, those are just guys that love fantasy football, have been doing it a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit casual, and you know, they're a little bit more easy with the jokes, and it's like because they're just representing them, you know. So I don't know, it's probably one of my favorite ones to listen to, and I definitely recommend it. So if you're a fantasy football addict, you probably already know about these. If not, just, you know, check it out just to keep up with what's going on in the NFL. And, you know, definitely if you're thinking about getting into it, give them a listen. You know, I definitely think you'll enjoy it. So that's the Fantasy Footballers podcast, available wherever podcasts are available. And that's pretty much it. So thank you guys very much for listening. I truly appreciate it. And today I have gotten my fix.